During his bombshell testimony on Capitol Hill last week, President Trump's former personal attorney Michael Cohen discussed a number of the president's associates. One frequently mentioned name was Allen Weisselberg, the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization. Democrats want to know about his alleged role in facilitating a so-called hush money payment weeks before the 2016 election.
It was ultimately determined, and this was days before the election, that Mr. Trump was going to pay the $130,000. In the office with me was Allen Weisselberg, the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization. He acknowledged to Allen that he was going to pay the $130,000 and that Allen and I should go back to his office and figure out how to do it.
Weisselberg's name was also mentioned in an audio recording released by Cohen's attorney last summer. On that recording, Cohen is heard discussing a payment to former Playboy model Karen McDougal with Mr. Trump.
I've spoken to Allen Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff. I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I spoke to me. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Allen about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
pay the kid.
No. I got... No.
Let's bring in Darren Samuelsohn and Franco Ordoñez. Darren is a senior White House reporter for Politico, and Franco is a White House correspondent for McClatchy News. Welcome to you both. Darren, let me begin with you. You wrote about Allen Weisselberg in a piece for Politico. Walk us through his role in the Trump Organization and some of the controversies involving the president.
Sure. Well, Allen Weisselberg is the chief financial officer for the Trump Organization. He has actually worked for President Trump for as long as the Trump Organization has been around. He goes back 40 plus years and was an accountant for Donald Trump's father, Fred. So he knows the financial secrets of President Trump for the last many decades, and it also obviously folds into all of the investigations that are going on to this point. As you just played the clips, Congress wants to know quite a bit about Allen Weisselberg's role in writing those hush money checks and organizing that sort of scheme to pay off the adult film actress that Donald Trump allegedly had an affair with. But there's a number of other things. Several times Michael Cohen was asked about different financial schemes, tax fraud accusations, and he referred back to Allen Weisselberg, mentioned him over and over again as the person that lawmakers will want to talk to as they pursue their investigations, not just of Donald Trump's campaign, but also his company, his inauguration, his transition, less so about his White House, but certainly anything dealing with Donald Trump's business ties. Allen Weisselberg sounds like the man that people want to talk to.
Well, Franco, what are you hearing from the White House about Allen Weisselberg potentially testifying before Congress?
Well, there's a lot of concern about it. I mean, as Darren was saying, his name came up over and over and over again. According to Vox, it came up 35 times. When I talk to officials at the White House, one of the things that they tell me repeatedly is this is the kind of thing that they're most afraid about. It wasn't the Russia and the campaign allegations. It was this and his past, particularly the Cohen FBI raid when they went to his office and looked into all his files, because it opens up a whole new door to President Trump's past that they didn't know about, that they don't have control of. So they're very concerned about what this could mean, because as Darren just said, I mean, if there are secrets out there, Allen's the one who has the key.
So, Darren, Weisselberg was also granted immunity by federal prosecutors last summer in their investigation of Michael Cohen. What more do we know about that agreement and investigation?
Well, when that came out last summer, it was a big bombshell. It really got a lot of people took notice of Allen Weisselberg actually cooperating to a limited degree. And that was maybe the big confusion, was whether Allen Weisselberg had actually turned into a state's witness. But it really sounds like that was a limited immunity deal to get him to testify in the Michael Cohen prosecution that the Southern District of New York was pursuing at the time. Now, Allen Weisselberg continues to work at the Trump Organization. He's the chief financial officer. Nothing has changed since then. So obviously, you would imagine if Allen Weisselberg was now a cooperator in the same sense as Michael Cohen or Michael Flynn or well, not really Paul Manafort, but Paul Manafort in all intention purposes, he was intended to be a cooperator. He wouldn't be working at the Trump Organization. He is still there. He seems to still have President Donald Trump's loyalty, and Donald Trump seems to be standing behind him, as does the entire Trump Organization. We'll see going forward whether that stays the case as prosecutors circle around him, not just in the Southern District of New York, but now there are interview demands and document demands coming at Allen Weisselberg from several House committees armed with subpoena power.
Right, because Darren, you also raised the possibility in your piece that in addition to perhaps this being a limited cooperation agreement, there could be another reason why Allen Weisselberg potentially is still there at the Trump Organization. What was that other possibility that you explored?
Well, I think it's the loyalty factor. I mean, you wouldn't want to get rid of somebody who's maybe you're trying to keep in your circle. Obviously, if the legal guns come after him, and Michael Cohen has implicated him in a number of crimes now, this is going to be the pressure point for Allen Weisselberg that we're going to be keeping a close eye on going forward. Obviously, if federal prosecutors do want to charge him, then that opens up a whole different can of worms. I think that they're working their way up the chain here, and they're investigating the Trump Organization in Southern District of New York, but it's really unclear what they're actually looking for or if there will be additional charges. Now, again, the House Democrats are doing the investigations that they are. They might be looking at this stuff not just for looking for illegalities, but if they might eventually be looking for impeachment charges, which is a totally different realm than criminal charges in a court.
Well, Franco, what do you expect to see from the White House if Congress starts focusing on the president's activities before he took office?
Well, I think you'll see a lot of what we have been seeing, including today with President Trump's tweets today calling out Democrats, arguing that they are, pushing a witch hunt, going after him. You're going to see President Trump articulating that and trying to kind of spin the narrative that he is the victim here, put more attention on the Democrats and say, look at what they're doing to me and look at what's happening to me. You hear a lot from President Trump, the I word, impeachment, being slung around. When I talk to Republican strategists, that's largely because, in a way, they want that kind of an argument because they feel if the more that impeachment is talked about, the more that President Trump can be seen as the victim and seen as a target instead of being, trying to lead the country.
All right, Darren Samuelsohn and Franco Ordoñez, thanks to you both.